I'm Robbie Painter. I'm the singer slash songwriter for About to Sweat. Actively, at least consciously, 12, but according to my mother, I've been into it my whole life. Like apparently, and I don't have memory of this. When I was 4 years old, I would run around with a paper guitar and make up songs about my great grandma's pecan pie, and rock star slide across the floor and sing about nut pie all day. It was so so ridiculous. But about 12, I remember my dad. We were in a Ross Dress for Less, and I saw a terrible $60 first act guitar, and I was like, you don't have to get me anything for 4 years, just give me this guitar, please. And I mean, the first day I got it, I annoyed the whole family because I was just going around being like, I figured out how to play Smoke on the Water on one string. And yeah, it's like my brain exploded as soon as I created the first thing on guitar. It was just like, I kind of knew. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to put my time into. I think part of it had to do with my uncle. One of the first times that I ever saw him play was he was playing guitar, and he plays like Hendrix, so he plays upside down and backwards. And I was just enamored. I was like, he's creating these incredible tones and sounds. And so the first time I had a chance to really get my hands on one, I did. Not to mention I had a inherited guitar that my mom was given when she was young, that it was almost like, she's like, one day you should learn how to play this. And now I do, so it feels nice. Did what she wanted to do. But I remember my very first gig was at the Vine Wine Bar out in Navarre when they had first opened up. I mean, that's like, what, 8 years ago now? 9 years ago? But yeah, I love, first gigs were very small. I didn't even own a microphone yet. I would just sit on my amp and sing as loud as I could. I tried really hard to make sure I could feel like at the end of the day, I'm like, that sounds like me, which was a really long trial and error process. But I think some of the major influences would still have to be like, as far as songwriting goes, like Benjamin Gibbard, guy from Death Cab for Cutie, he's an amazing songwriter. I love Incubus, was also very, like some of the first crazy chord shapes I learned was trying to learn how to play Incubus songs. And then even Red Hot Chili Peppers, as far as like putting energy in a song and letting it dynamically move around, I think they're some of the best to ever do that. We always flip between two major genres. We kind of land in between indie soul or jazz rock. We like to think it has that kind of mixture of like kind of psychedelic sounds, or as we like to put it too, is like jazz chords with rock intention. Is, you know, putting a little energy behind a little bit more jazzy style chords. I'm a sweaty guy. I'm a really sweaty guy. It wasn't even creative. It was just, I thought it was very funny. I mean, this is like 6 years ago now that I told my buddy, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we like got on mic and we're like, we're about to sweat, and then we do? We've got, so me, and then we've got Josh Zook on saxophone. He's been with us for a while now. He's absolutely incredible. We got Hayden Welch on drums. We have Adrian Boland on bass, and Chase Gasco on trombone. Some of the songs I thought were finished, and then we got like a new band member, and it was like, oh, this song wasn't finished. There was new ideas that needed to be added for it to feel a certain way. But I think in this group now, it's with all five of us, there's a really good point of communication where we can say like, hey, let's just try everyone's ideas. Let's see what everyone's ideas are, and we'll do them all. And we are yet to have a moment where it's like, yeah, that one sounds best. And there's never somebody who's like, I think the other one sounds best. Like, you can just feel whenever it kind of homogenizes into that complete picture. I think a lot of music captures people's, like a section of a person's life. And yeah, right now, I'm really excited to finally capture what feels like a lot of the best things that I've written through my 20s. And now it's like I can like put a cap on it and be like, those are done, and focus on creating even more new stuff. But now is the first step of many steps in making sure that we get it out there in a right way. A lot of modern music success relies on marketing, which is not something that any of us spent our developmental years focusing on. So we've been creating a strategy for the past year and a half of how we're going to release the music and kind of attack social media and like a campaign of sorts. Pretty much everything about music excites me. I mean, like I said, when I was a young kid, apparently that was all I was obsessed with. By the time I was 12 and I first got a guitar in my hands, it just took over my life from that point. I think a month after I got my guitar, I was like, I think this is what I'm going to try to do, to my whole family's detriment. None of them were excited about it.